Yeah, so we went through the introductions at least now. So everybody got to know the team. It was me, Dean, and Ron that built the solution. The problem that we identified and decided to tackle was the management of company credit cards. It is a very manual process whereby usually when an employee joins a company, there's an application form that needs to go to the bank. On the application form, you would already specify the limits. You would select the spend categories, which is a massive list, as you all know. And this list of this application form will go to the bank and a card will be returned. Now, later on, you want to change the spend categories or the card limits. And that process is quite a tedious process to go through. Actually, it's a resubmission of the application form signed by company representatives, and it usually takes a long time, from 2 weeks to a month sometimes, to get a turnaround and get this activated on the cards. And another big thing that we've identified is the cancelling of credit cards when an employee leaves the company. So I've seen this a lot in audit, and more often than not, the role of managing the company credit card sits in finance. And when HR terminates somebody on the payroll system, or somebody leaves or resigns, they neglect to inform the person to cancel the credit card. So there's still an active credit card out there for the employee that doesn't work there anymore. So that's one of the things. And then the spending versus budget. No, this is always an afterthought. We receive credit card statements at the end of the month. It gets imported into the finance system, and then you see somebody already overspent. So we want to actually be more proactive towards this, and that's where this all started. So yeah, that's the problem statement. How it works then, what we've done is we've built a solution that integrates with Sage HR. It will automatically download all the employees that's been captured on the payrolls or the HR system. And one of the main features is when an employee gets terminated by HR, it will automatically block all card transactions thanks to Investec's programmable banking. So that's one of the things. And then we've built a front end where you can set daily and monthly spend limits. So this will put the basically it in the hands of the company again to immediately raise a limit or lower a limit as needed. You can also set merchant groups and country groups, but we'll dig into this in the demo, I think. Then it will get a bit more, we can get into a bit more detail there. So Google, our solution was built on Google Cloud Platform. We made use of Cloud Functions, Cloud PubSub, and our backend is in Cloud Firestore. And the front end is Firebase Web App. So I think let's go into a demo. Just switch over to Firestore here. So this is our backend with all the collections and documents, and then all the fields within each document. We've got an employees collection here that we want to demo first. So what we'll do is we'll create a new employee on Sage. So this is Sage HR. It's a cloud-based payroll and HR solution. Let's create a new employee. So if someone starts working here, we'll just call it demo 001, work email demo 001 at r.co.za. Let's make his start date 1st of the month though. Don't want to send the email, it's a fake email address. We have to assign a position or say it's without a position. Just quickly select everything here that we need to select for the employee.
As you're saying, yeah, this is linked to Sage itself. So these things would generally be populated by the Sage app.
Yeah. Once I click save here, you'll see a new employee pops up. So now, Dean, if you can kick off the cloud function that extracts the employees for us. At the moment, it's not scheduled. We're kicking it off manually to demo this. As you can see there, the new employee showed up. If we go into the employee, you'll see all the details populated. demo001. Also note right at the bottom, we've got a field called terminated. That's a field we populate ourselves based on some logic on the Sage data, and it's showing false at the moment. So this is an active employee. So now we are able to assign a card to this employee. So we've built the front end whereby we can just refresh this first, since we added a new employee now. So first thing you do on our front end, this is the front end that we've built, is you go to assign cards. So now there's a new employee, demo001. We can select that employee, and then we can select all available cards. So there's one card available, that is our simulation card ID that we have on here. So we'll select that card and we'll assign it to this employee. Now the card is assigned. If we go back, you'll see there's a new collection of another collection where we've created, linked this employee to that card now. On the Manage tab, this is where you can set all the limits. So let's select that employee again. You can also have multiple cards to one employee. Sometimes there's a fuel card and a credit card. So we'll select the one card that's assigned to this employee. The details for the employee also populates. And here we've got the merchant groups. So what we've done is, since it's a long list of merchant groups, is we've created a grouping of merchants. So in our database, you'll see there's a merchant groups, and the merchants collection is also here. So from here, we've created, say, for example, now we've created a manager role and we've created a commuter role. And you can assign multiple merchants to this role, basically. It's just to make it easier on the front end to select multiple spent merchant groups. So we'll select manager for this one and we'll submit the changes. This country groups, we did in exactly the same way. We'll assign this employee to SA only.
Sorry, man, I was just explaining there. So you may have an employee that goes to multiple countries and has a credit card that is allowable. You can take out your clients and buy dinner or do things, but only allowed in a specific country. At the moment, we only have two options, but you could actually expand that and allow an employee to use a card in multiple countries. Or you could say Southern Africa, and we'll group multiple countries in this group, and this person is allowed to use this card in all of the allowable countries. Or South Africa only, if it's only South Africa, and he can only spend money locally.
Exactly. And what's nice is that it can be customized for whatever the client is that would want to deploy the solution, which is awesome. So for this one, we'll select SA only for now, and apply to Chow. We've already selected that. So the balances here would only populate if there's actually balances. It's a new employee, so there's no balances. But here at the bottom, we can set spend limits, monthly and daily. So we'll set 1,000 for this employee and 100 Rand for a day. It is cents amounts, so that's why there's so many zeros. And we can submit changes. As soon as we submit the changes, you'll see it populates for this employee on the employee card collection. It will populate all the spend limits for the employee. So I think now we can simulate the transaction, but I got locked out here. So let me just quickly log back in.
Ron, you're on mute. It looks like you're.
I noticed now that I was talking. Yeah, we use cents amount because that is what the programmable banking interface actually sends to us, a cents amount. Yes, our front end could change it to rands or whatever, but we do allow for a daily limit and a monthly limit. If someone didn't want the daily limit, they could set their daily limit to the monthly limit, or it just allows for anyone to specify, do you want someone to spend only X amount per day, or do you want them to spend X amount for a month? But we've given that flexibility where you can specify someone can only buy beer for 100 Rand a day and 3,000 a month if you want.
if he's added to that merchant category.
But we are allowed to actually specify that now a bottle store is not allowed. You can't buy beer, but you can go to Pick and Pay and buy wine, and it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Don't show out the
I
loopholes
don't know
now.
why you
So early.
alcohol is my standard, my go-to, but actually, we programmers, we all know how it works.
Exactly. Okay, so first thing, let's post a transaction that would be allowed. It's 90 Rand. It's below the 100 Rand daily limit. It's the correct merchant, and it's also the correct country. So when we simulate this transaction, our cloud function that is called for the pre-transaction returns a response. So it returned the response authorization true, which we pass back. And then it says transaction authorized. This is just for login purposes that we can also see on Investec side why a transaction would be declined or not. So let's try to do another transaction of 90 Rand. So this also updated. Let me just switch to our cards, employee cards again. You'll see the 90 Rand was posted here now. Also, the limit is still 100 Rand, and there's only 10 Rand left to spend for the day. So if we want to spend 90 Rand again and we simulate the transaction, then
It's on the same day. So we had a daily limit of 90, and now we have a second transaction of 90 on the same day.
Yeah.
So now the authorization is false, and the authorization reason is unsuccessful. Transaction cents amount of 90 is greater than the daily balance cents amount of 10 Rand, or the monthly cents amount of 910 Rands. So this is for the spend category. So let's just change it back to a number that is allowed. So 5 Rand we can spend, but let's select another merchant category. But let me grab a code from here. Let's say advertising services. This person is not supposed to be spending on this category. And let's simulate another transaction. Again, false. This time the authorization reason is unsuccessful, merchant not authorized. So let's just change it back to, what is that one again? Merchant groups, this one.
Control
To do this merchant, okay. So let's just change it back. So this merchant is allowed again. So if we post a transaction of 5 Rand now, it should go through. But let's change the country to Gola and see if we can do a transaction there. And it returns authorization reason firstly false, and then unsuccessful, country not authorized. So this is us in a nutshell when it comes to the solution or the app. I think, is there any questions at this point while we're still in the front end and back end and everything? Yeah.
I've got some questions for the end.
For the end, okay.
Yeah.
Back to the slides then. Okay, so the challenges we've encountered though was
I'm sorry, Michiel.
yeah.
Are you going to show the termination as well?
Oh, the termination, yes. Let's do a termination. Yeah. Almost forgot about that one, which is one of the biggest ones actually. So let's switch over to the employees here. And this demo 001, let's say he resigned. He got a new job very quickly, but let's make it as of yesterday. He's no longer working here, and we terminate him on the payroll system. Now you need to click off the cloud function again on your side, team, and we'll just go to this collection first and scroll down to, you've already kicked it off. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
now,
already kicked.
yeah, so now the terminated shows through here. It changed this field when we executed the function. And if we try to do another allowable
Also,
transaction.
just note that the resolution of this is based on how often we would schedule the lookup on Cake or sorry, Sage HR. If you do a daily once a day at 6 a.m., if someone is terminated at 12 p.m., it wouldn't show up. But if we had an hourly check against the HR database, it would hourly update this person's termination status when it's run. I'm not sure there's a way to actually have a real-time push from HR. I doubt it.
Unless there's webhooks or something. But in some cases, there's webhooks, which would be great, but HR systems is not that sophisticated as yet. I've seen, at least. Okay, so let's simulate a transaction that should be allowed based on all the other criteria. But this employee was now, in fact, terminated on the HR system. And let's see. Okay, so now it returns a response false again. Unsuccessful employee is terminated. And that is everything. We've covered everything now, Dean, Ron.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Okay. So changes we've encountered. The merchants.json file that is on the Investec programmable banking platform and the country codes.json, they are not accessible through the API as yet. I don't know if that is a plan, but to deploy the solution, we had to manually import that into a collection on our side, on our back end, as well as the cards. Say a company that has lots of cards, it will be great if one can, in some way via API or in some way, just access the available cards and what the people's names are that are associated with the cards. In that way, it can be deployed at a client much easier without manually capturing and doing capturing errors when you load cards. So that's the only things that we thought was real challenge for us. But then future enhancements. So there's a couple of things we thought of. So there's a lot that we still want to do.
Sorry, Michiel,
Yeah.
if you can go back to the previous slide.
Yeah.
If it's an API call or something we could refresh, because if a new merchant comes along or a new country code, we'd want to be informed of the fact that he's a new merchant. So I don't know. Yeah, it would be nice if there's an API call that returns JSON, and we can then refresh the list of allowable merchants. Like, especially on COVID, a bottle store shouldn't be an available merchant while there's a big lockdown, or a country for some reason that it's not allowable anymore. It would be nice if we could get an updated list of these things. A list for one would be good, and then an updated list at whatever time. If there's an API call and we could refresh it on an hourly basis, or if you want the resolution to be minutely, then every minute we can go and refresh this.
Especially cards that get changed frequently. Countries remain the same, but then there's wars. So let's see.
No, Sudan's not included.
Yeah, no, let's not go there. Then future announcements. So one of the things there's a couple of things that we thought of that we want to do. We actually added a couple now as well. But the most important one for us is actually to be able to integrate with other payroll systems as well. So not all payroll systems have an open API where you can actually connect to. So some of this would probably be on-prem manual uploads as well. It is all possible with Google Cloud Platform. It is obviously just a little bit more development to do that, but that's one of the things to make the solution more flexible. We would like to add currencies to the validations. So spending in the US, but still being in rands, or spending US dollars in South Africa based on the location, we would like to build that in as part of the solution as well. Another thing is to add temporary employee card spend logic to authorize once-off transactions and travel spend for specific periods. So for example, we've assigned the daily limit and we've assigned the monthly limit to an employee now, but he has to go away immediately for 2 weeks to another country and temporarily spend in that country only for 2 weeks. We would like to add another tab on our front end to be able to set limits on a temporary basis. And do exactly the same thing, just for a temporary, with a time limit, basically. Then add an interface to update merchants and country groups that we discussed on the previous slide as well. Built in spend reporting. So we did the initial part of this, whereby we send the transactions to BigQuery as well. So I think once it's in BigQuery, you can do all sorts of reporting on top of the data and bring that in the front end as well. So if you load a user's profile, you can see spend history and trends and all those kind of things as well. Then integrate with accounting software and tools. So if you can bring in another leg into this, that would also be amazing. And that's where we'll start using the open API to post transactions to the finance system. I think that has been done before by someone else, and it's that's one of the things we would want to add to this solution as well. And then WhatsApp notification on spend limits, so that someone that with a card is absolutely aware of how much you can still spend and what you've spent up to now. So yeah,
and then Michiel, also reasons why his transaction was declined at a POS.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have exceeded your daily limit, or you're not allowed to spend here, or Mavericks is certainly not on the cards, or whatever it is. But just inform the person swiping his card why his transaction was declined.
Yeah.
And a contact number.
Please my real world examples of why these things might be declined.
Also,
all theoretical.
Also a contact number. I know I was using someone's card blocking app to test for the hackathon, and then I went to shop, and I forgot that it's blocked.
Was
I was
notified of why your transaction was?
No one was notified. I was just blocked from spending.
We won't ask what you spend it on, but okay. It would be nice if the person whose card it's linked to is notified. Also, as a way of figuring out fraud. If somebody else is using your card in some dodgy place, you get notified immediately.
Or maybe the company would want to let him know that he was fired through spending.
So yeah, just some good news. A lot of the work we're doing with OneCard is to try and refine these decline codes, because it's actually quite complex, the amount of systems that can decline you through this transaction, and not just us. And trying to get some visibility into, like, when you get declined, who is it? Is it like the POS or the acquisition bank or whatever? So it's quite a pain, but we are definitely doing some good work to try and get more clarity on why these things are declining sometimes, because a bit of a shot in the dark sometimes with all of the systems involved.
I suppose there are multiple systems that could decline you. There's one of 5 possible intermediaries that could decline for various reasons, and you need to tell the person at the POS why his transaction was declined.
100%.
Awesome.
So I think WhatsApp is a good tool to use as a medium of informing the person at the POS why their transaction was declined. And instead of he swiped 1,000 rand and now suddenly he has declined, you want to tell the person at the POS, oh, it's my boss said no.
I'm not supposed to buy, yeah. That's right. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, I'd love to give the audience a chance first.
Yeah, I got a question. Firstly, that's super awesome. But my question is, I guess, around whether or not I know you listed sort of future enhancements, like with regards to accounting integrations, and just whether or not you guys know how closely linked, I guess, Sage HR and Sage Accounting are together, and whether or not you can directly integrate with the sort of, I guess, bank feed APIs. And I guess the reason I ask is last year try to integrate Luno with Xero, but realized that Xero won't allow you access to their bank feed API unless you're a financial institution. So having to make a bit of a workaround there. And I guess in terms of like the number of transactions and sort of touch points that happen with these things, obviously, I guess with for each card assigned to each individual, there are probably multiple transactions. So that's for me at least, having to deal with similar kind of stuff, which is why I'm really interested in this, because I find it very useful in my own working life. It would be super valuable to have that the other leg being that sort of accounting bank feed leg working. And I'm just interested to know how possible that is in terms of like the accessibility on the accounting API side.
To be honest, we haven't actually investigated the accounting side of it. We thought it would be nice if on the slides.
Yeah,
but we
I
haven't
looked into
actually
it a little bit.
investigated. We did somewhat, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know what the touch points would be between the accounting side and the HR side. I don't know if it's allowable that we'll be the intermediary between the HR side and the actual accounting side.
Okay,
No,
cool.
The specific solution that we looked at, which is Sage HR, it's their smallest package, if I can say it as such, but it's a completely isolated HR only solution.
Okay.
And you won't be able to integrate via the payroll system. But one of the off-the-shelf of cloud solutions, at least on the accounting side, also have open APIs where you can post general ledger transactions directly to, but it's also the smallest one. But the bigger packages is more often than not on-prem solutions.
Yes.
In which case you'll either have to do extracts or set up jobs on the database there. But they do have a massive cloud solution as well that I did not look into, where you actually buy a package that is not only accounting, it's accounting and payroll. But I did not look into that at all.
Okay.
There's no trial period for that, so we didn't look at it.
Maybe
Okay,
Ben
no,
can
cool, man.
comment a bit. Like we did some work last year to integrate into Sage, and I think there's an example of a program sitting somewhere where they managed to take the transactions out of Investec and put them into Sage. Obviously, it's like just this solution of yours is a middleman between that.
Yeah, Imran built integration into Sage. So if you guys want to have a look at that and see if it can work with yours, it would be amazing to see you leverage some of the community projects that exist. Are you aware of that integration or not?
Not as far as we can, I didn't see anything like that. But then I'm asking, okay, how would I know that this card, because that's the only information we get, it's a card ID that somebody linked on our front end to an employee. How would that tie into my accounting system? I'm just throwing questions out there. We'd have to have some other integration point, and I don't know what the Sage API gives you. Can I give a card ID and see where does this transaction get posted to?
I think the mechanism they used was to not just use the programmable banking stuff, also use the open API and then pull the transaction. So as you swipe the card, you call the transaction endpoint. That obviously gives you more information that can link, that you can use to link the employee to the card to Sage type of thing as a in the middle.
Okay.
So these would just be transactions from your bank account into Sage. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Is there a way to link the transactions from the open API directly to the transaction payload we receive from the programmable banking side?
You do get the card
transaction ID.
You get the card number from the open API.
It's only the card number. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't, like, it's two systems, so we're constantly trying to figure out the way to make the two seem like they're connected to each other, and you can like, swipe the card and see the transaction come through, but that's the challenge we've been busy with. But you can definitely distinguish the card number from the transaction. So you can now, like if you do a fuzzy match with like amounts and things, you can pick it up.
Okay.
Wayne, how crazy is it to get the real-time transactions in from the API? Because I know that right now they only come through like 1 or 2 days later. But you do in the app see your transactions kind of immediately. So
it's like, it depends what you want to do. Like as all things in life, this is once again a bit more complicated. Like if you swipe your card at a POS and the transaction goes off, the merchant has a day to reverse that transaction. So it's almost like there's a temporary transaction being put in the database. So that's what you're picking up with when you call it as a later when they send details properly, and then you'll see that what you want to do. And
is it just me or is Wayne?
now if you take it in Sage and the merchant reverses, you're gonna have to start building like a reverse mechanism, which sounds complicated.
Right. Okay. Okay. I don't want to take too much time away from the other group as well. But thanks, guys. That's really, really like an amazing solution and very exciting how close to production ready that is.
I love this solution. I think in the hackathon, this was the most practical of all the solutions I think we came up with, or that the community came up with. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, I'll post the recording in the group as well. So if anyone has more questions.
And we're available for anything else. We love a challenge. Tell us what you need help with or whatever. We'll throw something out there that you think might be useful, and I wanna do it.
Awesome. I love the attitude.